You've been through so much, or some of which you've mentioned, the arrests, the beatings, being shot at, tear gassed. At what point do you sit down and think, this is too much, maybe time to bow out? Or does that never cross your mind?
I am no Superman. I'm a human being.
Is it like being in opposition in Uganda?
Tough. I don't present myself as the most knowledgeable or the most qualified, but as the most committed to this reality that we see. But most importantly, once we get there, we want to build strong institutions that can outlive human weakness and human greed.
Exactly.
So we want to empower our nation.
You know, there's a lot of bad-mouthing of the USA and what it does. But one thing you know for sure that has kept the USA going forward, regardless of any type of a leader they might have in the White House, it is the strength of the institutions. That's what Darren Achimagolu writes about in the book, Why Nations Fail. The death of institutions marks the beginning of the end of those countries, the death of those countries. And if you cannot build institutions that can outlive you, you are not a leader at all. You have failed in that experiment.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
And yes, indeed, presenting to you from these United States of the America, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, or good time, from wherever you're watching me and at whatever time you might watch this conversation. My name is Mordecai Marissa, and you're welcome to Mordecai Marissa Live. Exactly. Thank you, folks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? Thank you for following this feed. The countdown begins now. 9 days to go. Ladies and gentlemen, 9 days until the Ugandans head to the polls to vote for Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, famously known as Bobi Wine, as the next president. It goes without saying, the vast majority of Ugandans want Bobi Wine to be president, and we are now questioning, will Museveni finally hand over power peacefully? I've received tremendous support from you folks from Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, many in America, many in the UK, and across Europe and Asia. Thank you so much, folks. I know why you do it. You share with us what we are going through. You're going through the same. The trials and tribulations of the African people, especially the abuse of power from their leaders. This started right away from our days of independence. And so I understand when I see many people from across Africa following me or wanting to know what's going on in Uganda, it is because it is pretty much the same. This is not an isolated incident or isolated circumstances. What you see in Uganda is happening in Nigeria. It is happening in Malawi or Zambia in one way or another. It is the pattern and practice of our so-called leaders. And it is very sad. These extremely nefarious way of playing politics. I don't want to use the term playing, but, doing politics and leading people started right away from the days of independence. Isn't it sad that even people I respect, such as Nelson, I have immense respect for him, Baba Nelson Mandela, but folks like Kwame Nkrumah, shortly after the independence of Ghana in 1957, he was toppled in 1966. I think he was in a peace mission in Vietnam. Then Major General Joseph Arthur Ankra toppled him on February 24th, 1966. Very sad, right away. Just only 6 years, I think, after independence. And, you see this. Emperor Haile Selassie in Ethiopia, he was toppled by the military committee known as the DARG. In 1974. Then look at Muammar Gaddafi, who was toppled recently after ruling or leading people for 42 years. I know we usually want to blame somebody. Those Americans toppled Muammar Gaddafi. They wanted his oil. But come on, there's no one that's going to convince me that you're going to lead people, rule people for 42 years, and you're not going to have domestic opposition. And how was he handling that domestic opposition? Go find out and let me know how he was treated. If you'd be okay to be treated in such a way, and you would say no to any form of help from any group. And then you look at Mugabe, see how he ended by being toppled by Emmerson Mnangagwa. Then that's the same route Museveni is taking. They've all betrayed every aspirations, every desires, every dream of the people they lead. So now here we are. We see the death and the decline of an old regime and the birth of a new movement led by Bobi Wine. Is it going to be able, are we going to be able to see it? I don't know. It remains to be seen. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to take you on some sort of a mental flight one more time as we are counting 9 days to the election day to look at this interview. Why is Bobi Wine actively involved in this? Isn't he afraid of his life? I've had tremendous opportunities of interviewing him since 2018. I interviewed him last year when he was in Boston, Massachusetts. But I find this interview pretty revealing on what he's trying to do and what he thinks. So let's go on and watch this as a reminder of a type of a leader we are following. I have immense respect for him.
I'm seeking for better leadership, accountable leadership, more human rights, more freedoms, but most importantly, an end to corruption so that we can use our resources for the betterment of our lives and the lives of our people.
Brilliant. I've always had, like I said, people say, Bobi Wine lacks ideological depth. He's got all these vibes and stuff. He doesn't have... it doesn't really matter because you argue in favor of Museveni of having an ideological depth. But of what importance is the ideological depth? Yet your citizens are treated like, not even animals, treated like slaves. As we speak, his bodyguard, my friend Ed Mutwe, was abducted by the commander of our defense forces. He tortured him, had his photos taken and posted on social media. Of what importance is my ideological identity if my rights are going to be trampled upon? The argument we've always made is, can I be a human being before you tell me, why do you identify as right-wing, left-wing, liberal, conservative, socialist, or neoliberalism? I don't care.
Is it like being in opposition in Uganda?
Tough, I would say, and gets tougher by the years. Being in the opposition in Uganda means being labeled a terrorist.
Exactly.
You see, Uganda happens to be a country ruled by General Museveni, who has ruled it for almost 40 years. And challenging his authority in Uganda is challenging the national military, the Uganda People's Defense Force. Being against Museveni is being against every institution of state because he has captured all state institutions.
So many things have changed in your country in terms of how long a president can stay, in terms of term limits. Age limit have been scrapped. Are you running again for president in the next?
I think he answered that question, but let's go right here. See.
Museveni regime in 2005, he changed the constitution to remove term limits. He keeps changing the constitution to his convenience. And that's why we insist on saying that we must move beyond individuals. Do I intend to run against him? Definitely. I've said this time and again that I've offered myself to my team. If my team still believes that I can lead them to challenge General Museveni again, I'm available.
You have been a name, a presence in the political landscape of Uganda for a while now. How relevant do you think you still are to the Ugandan youth?
Like I said, it is not just me. The question should be, how relevant are the ideas that I represent to the Ugandan youth, and they are very relevant because I speak about the reality. I'm presenting in black and white the option to the situation that we are living under right now. I don't present myself as the most knowledgeable or the most qualified, but as the most committed to this reality that we see.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to that. Now, that's a mic drop to me. I mean, I'm not presenting myself as the most knowledgeable or the most qualified, but the most committed. And this is usually what I want to play to naysayers, skeptics, and everyone, pessimists. Those that look at this and be like, it's not going to work. He's not going to win. Or he's not the right person to do that. Because look at him. This man there's been several attempted assassination onto his life. They've killed his driver. His best friends, his friends are in prison because of him. Many of his close allies, such as his bodyguards, all of them are in prison because of him. They continue to kill people around him, but he continues to go forward. That's called commitment. And commitment treaty overrides anything. Now, does he have the qualifications? Absolutely. He's of age. He's got the education. He's a lawyer. He's got a degree in music, dance, and drama. He's got everything it takes. But that aside, they've abducted him. They beat him up only for president to come out and be like, oh, they tortured my political opponent. How good was that? Most of the folks who are, making all these commentary from their apartments like Mordecai Murisa right here are not willing to offer themselves to go through the hell he's been placed under. But they are in positions to advise who qualifies and who is not, who is better suited to lead Ugandans and not, until you tell them, hey, how about with all these brilliant ideas, you offer yourselves, and then Ugandans can actually compare and contrast between you and Bobi Wine. They won't. All they have is this beautiful analysis. It's called intellectual dishonesty.
The reality that the corruption has sunk our country and has stalled our development.
As returned by His Excellency the President, be ready.
You've been through so much, of some of which you've mentioned. The arrests, the beatings, being shot at, tear gassed. At what point do you sit down and think, this is too much, maybe time to bow out? Or does that never cross your mind?
I am no Superman. I'm a human being who feels pain, who gets scared, who gets anxious, who gets worried. I am no Superman. You're asking at what time do I say enough is enough? At all times. Every time I'm under attack. Every time another brother is abducted, another person is killed. Every time I visit my friends in prison, I'm like, enough is enough. But again, there's no alternative to this. This is a one-way mission. Either getting our freedom or we die trying. I call upon the international community to be involved in this. How? The role of the international community is to give attention to what's happening in Uganda. I know that so much is happening in the world, but let us also get some attention, because Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, plays a big role. There's been a lot of investment in sub-Saharan Africa. The US alone last year sent $12 billion in sub-Saharan Africa. Uganda took more than $500 million of that.
Wow. Yeah, and that's what we cry for. But let's go back to what he said. You'd get to a point where you think, okay, I think I should give up. But he says this is a one-way mission. You either win the freedom you're fighting for, or you die trying. And that's what has earned him the following you see in Uganda. It is not because he's the most qualified. And this is what I found out, actually. People are usually looking, analyzing. People know who the right person is. He's not able to attract millions and millions of Ugandans just for like vibes, like they say. No, it is because people relate with him. People have seen the sacrifices. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be watching me from, like I said, any part of the world. I want to tell you about Bobi Wine. Before he got himself involved in this active politics, he was a pretty established music star with a beach, a house that sits on many acres of land, a record label. He was a music producer. He had everything. But along the way, he had an epiphany. This means nothing. If I'm the only one that is enjoying this, how about other people can join me in this comfort? And that's what earns him our respect. Being able to abandon comfort and join people in their oppression. I cannot imagine how many times he's been pepper sprayed, he's been tear gassed, he's been brutalized, he's been sabotaged. How many times? But regardless of that, he keeps going forward until you listen to armchair analysis, trying to say he's not the right person.
In health, education, and others. We appreciate that. But that aid should be coming with preconditioned. Yes, while we seek the US aid to be reinstalled, we have EU aid and aid from other developing partners. We want preconditions on that aid. Because if there are no preconditions of democracy, respect for human rights and the rule of law, then that money is only sponsoring the oppression of the people of Uganda.
Brilliant.
At what point do we move away from aid and expecting USAID, expecting the EU, expecting everybody else coming to our aid?
We can only say enough to the aid if we have an alternative. And in my view, the alternative is first and foremost to end corruption.
You mentioned that.
And that's why the irony is, you know, most of our money is stolen. You cannot imagine how much money is stolen from in Uganda through corruption. The only way to end that, the only way of making sure that you do not rely on foreign aid is by making sure that you get rid of the corruption in your own country. Now, the corruption we have in Uganda is superintended over by the president of Uganda, who was namely the case here in the USA, where Patrick Coe actually is in prison. You can go on and search for that case. Museveni took a bribe alongside Sam Kahamba Kutesa, his minister, in his cabinet. And then Museveni has been protecting all these corrupt officials in Uganda. So in order to make sure that we say no to this international aid that may come with conditions we are not comfortable with, we have to make sure that we get rid of corruption in Uganda. But the head of corruption in Uganda is Museveni. So the only way, the logical conclusion is to get rid of Museveni, get rid of the Musevenism system and his lackeys and minions, and then chart a new path, begin anew.
You get afraid, you're scared, you get anxious with what happens around you in your life. You are a father, you're a family man. What kind of conversations do you have with your children? Because they are young.
Initially, my wife and I had decided to keep our children out of this and to keep them ignorant. But you can only do that for so long. Our eldest son is 19. Our youngest daughter is 9. Children of this generation know everything. So we decided to be honest with our children. They know exactly everything that's coming back, that is happening. I mean, they've been lucky enough to travel with me out of the country a couple of times, and they've seen better governed country. So they understand what we're fighting for. We take lessons from struggles for freedom, struggles against slavery, struggles against apartheid, struggles against colonialism, and the like. These are not struggles for one generation.
President Museveni came to power aged 42, a year younger than you are now. And you've often been compared to him in the sense of what he was at the time. Words like energetic, charismatic, and and inspiring with a vision.
Yeah.
Is there a danger that you yourself could end up being looked at the same way as you are looking at President Museveni of 2025?
Yes. Yes, it worries me.
Mhm.
Because clearly Museveni was an amazing person. It worries myself. I was named after Robert Mugabe. He was a great revolutionary of the time. Our leader of opposition was named after Museveni because he was a great revolutionary. These guys meant good, or at least it looked like that. But we also know that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We must constantly remind ourselves. But we know that we as individuals are prone to human weakness. Therefore, first we want to build a team of like-minded people that can hold each other accountable. But most importantly, once we get there, we want to build strong institutions that can outlive human weakness and human greed.
Exactly.
So we want to empower a nation, for that nation to be able to hold leaders accountable, so that at the end of it all, we have leaders that are actually servants to the people.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for pausing here. You know, there's a lot of bad mouthing of the USA and what it does. But one thing you know for sure that has kept the USA going forward, regardless of any type of a leader they might have in the White House, it is the strength of the institutions. That's what Darren Achimagolu writes about in the book, Why Nations Fail. The death of institutions marks the beginning of the end of those countries, the death of those countries. And if you cannot build institutions that can outlive you, you are not a leader at all. You have failed in that experiment. And that's what we see with Museveni. He's keeping the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, on his leash. The Chief Justice, Owinyi is pretty much a lapdog. And then himself in the executive, he's pretty much leading subservient lackeys in the bodies of Jessica Alupo and Nabanja, the Vice President and Prime Minister, respectively. These are non-strong voices of institutions. These are loyalists who do not question any decision that is made by the President of Uganda. He's convinced them that he's all-knowing, omnipresent. He's everywhere. He's so smart. They're afraid of him. That's why they're not even challenging him, even in his own party primaries. They're afraid of standing against him because they're afraid of what might happen to them. Confiscation of properties. Death, to mention but a few. The strength of the institutions is the strength of the country. USA has had some bad leaders in the past. But one thing that has kept this country going, it is the strong institutions, because institutions don't serve an individual. They serve the American people. And then these institutions actually outlive an individual. And that's what we've got to do. That's the only way we can immunize ourselves against the corruptedness of power.
People that actually fear to offend people, to mess up things. But as of today, the people fear the leaders. As of today, people are accountable to the leaders. It's supposed to be the other way around.
Exactly.
What is your message to the current Ugandan leadership then?
To General Museveni?
General Museveni, the institutions that you say are corrupt, everything, the apparatus around.
Well, I'll ask him to read his own book, Sowing the Mustard Seed. To read his own book, What is Africa's Problem? Where he says the problem with Africa in general and Uganda in particular are the leaders that overstay in power. And just to remind them that as Africans, we are taught that a man is as good as his word. Respect your word. Keep your word. That is the only way we're going to respect you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Museveni has no intention whatsoever of keeping his word. He's become extremely drunk to power, that dominating other people has become his way of life. Bobi Wine is referring to the book. Museveni actually went, you cannot find the original copy. But in the original copy of the book, What is Africa's Problems? He mentions the problem of Africa and Uganda in particular. The problem of Africa in general and Uganda in particular are leaders who overstay in power. Now he went back and amended those words, engaging in a revisionist history where he says, oh, I meant those who stay in power extra-constitutionally. Again, you fall in that category. These elections are usually marked by violence, rigging, brutalization of people, to mention but a few. So he loses on both ends, either constitutionally or unconstitutionally. He is the same guy. It is very sad. But what does that teach us? If you are watching me, you never know. You might be a leader at one time. You might be president of Africa or any other country. Or your child, your son, your relative. Tell them, institutions are the only way you can build a country. It is not about you. This world has seen great men that have come and left. Strong, strong, strong men. And of what importance is building all these things around yourself, knowing that in the end, there will be something called the last breath. And as you have that last breath, everything that you build starts to fall, step one by one, until they all disappear. Right now, if I ask you, show me the house of Marcus Aurelius, you may not be able to show me. Show me the house of Mobutu. There's nowhere to be seen. Or Gaddafi, or Pol Pot. Show me the house of any leader, Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, or Stalin. Nowhere. Because there's no importance in that. But I'll ask you, show me the legacy of George Washington, and I'll point to you at the White House. After serving one term, he said, that's done. And that's why I have that photo of a great leader, Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years at Robben Island, being tortured in inhumane way you cannot imagine, he comes back after being granted his freedom. He comes back and does the unimaginable. First, reconcile and forgive his tormentors. But two, come to power as people had wanted him to be, only to serve for one term and says, that's enough. He would be entitled. Actually, there were people who said, Baba, you can still keep going. We love you. Let us compensate you for all these years that you sacrificed for the things in life you lost while you were at Robben Island. He said, no, this is not about Nelson Mandela. This goes beyond me. Nelson Mandela spirit. It's the George Washington spirit. And until we come to realization, greed, getting drunk to power, doesn't save or build your nation. It kills it. It builds a generation of selfish, greedy men and women who feed them their stomachs and their people while their citizens suffer. Come on, Africa, wake up. Wake up, Africa. Getting a little emotional there. All right. I'll stop here, brothers and sisters. Please make sure that you hit the subscription button. Write down in the comment section, what do you think about this conversation? Like this video and invite other folks to join us. Now, I want to say sorry to many of you. Sometimes you come in here to watch this content only to find me speaking my local language or our local languages, and you'll be like, I thought you are... you do commentary in English. I am sorry. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I switch depending on the subject and probably the kind of way I'm feeling at that particular moment. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Stick around. Bye-bye.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.